Los Angeles is experiencing a rare moment in world sports. After seeing the Dodgers lift the World Series for the second time in 2 seasons, the feeling in the city isn't one of rest or prolonged celebration. It's one of continuity. It's as if everyone here is aware that we're living through something bigger than a simple winning cycle. There's a sense of building a dynasty, of a project that's nowhere near its end. And when the team's foundation is strong, reliable, and accustomed to appearing on the biggest stages, the management's job is no longer just to maintain what already works, but to find the pieces that add something more. That's exactly where we are right now. In recent weeks, two names have begun to dominate conversations among fans, insiders, and even within the franchise's backrooms: Bo Bichette and James Wood. The first representing immediate impact, the second, future sustainability. And this duality says a lot about who the Dodgers are today. Bichette drew attention, not only for what he has already achieved, but for how he performed in the World Series, especially against the Dodgers. Even dealing with a knee problem, he had a performance that only athletes with a different mentality can achieve under pressure. An average above .340, an OPS close to 900, and a decisive home run that became a symbol of that game. Players like that are not intimidated by the moment. They redefine it. This type of behavior is exactly what makes a front office stop, look, and think, this guy is the type who wins October. And the Dodgers, more than any other team in recent years, have understood that October is where legends are made. But signing Bichette wouldn't just be adding another hitter. It would mean making him part of an offensive plan that already includes Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani. It could potentially form the most feared lineup in MLB. However, there's a detail that can't be ignored: the defense. Bichette isn't considered a defensively elite shortstop, and therefore some internal projections suggest transitioning him to second base, which would open up possibilities for reorganization in the infield. Tommy Edman could be reallocated in some rotations, while the roster depth would be adjusted accordingly. This is the strategic, complex, and careful part. The question is it worth the risk? Bichette's bat suggests yes. The impact he can have immediately also suggests yes. But the cost, naturally, will be high, and the Blue Jays know exactly that. On the other side of the table, James Wood represents something completely different, but equally important. If Bichette is the present, Wood is the future. An impressive physical talent, young with natural power, increasingly refined strike zone vision, and contract control until at least 2030. A player who can not only contribute now, but become a pillar of the franchise for years to come. And that's a piece that teams like the Dodgers value highly, because a dynasty isn't built solely on established names. Dynasties are sustained by smooth transitions between generations. Wood is seen by many analysts as someone with the real capacity to become a recurring all-star outfielder, perhaps even an MVP in his prime. But for that to happen in Los Angeles, something else must also be given up. Valuable prospects, young players on the roster, future draft picks. Nothing great comes without a cost. And this is where the question that grips the fans comes to life. What is more important now? To further strengthen a team that is already an immediate contender for the title? Or to ensure that this window of competitiveness doesn't close so soon? Those who love the Dodgers feel this duality, because we are a franchise that thinks big. Not just in 2025, but in 2026, 2027, 2028. We are a team that doesn't play to compete. We play to dominate. That's why these two names aren't just rumors. They represent the philosophy behind everything this team has become. The Dodgers front office doesn't act on impulse. It acts based on calculation, vision, and courage. That's how it was when they brought in Mookie. That's how it was when they brought in Freeman. That's how it was when they brought in Ohtani. That's how it was when they bet on Snell, Tanner Scott, and Roki Sasaki to keep the fire burning. Nothing on this team is by chance. Everything is direction. The point is, the present is strong. The future can be even greater. We are facing a choice that defines the next chapter of this story. Bringing in Bichette means intensifying the present. Betting on Wood means extending the era. And neither choice is small. Neither is simple. Neither is devoid of emotion. And as a fan, I say, this is the kind of conversation that only major franchises have the privilege of having. Now I want to know from you, what's the right move? Do you prefer the immediate impact of Bo Bichette, which could make this lineup almost unfair? Or do you believe James Wood is the kind of talent that will keep the dynasty alive for years to come? Leave your opinion in the comments. I want to hear the voice of the Blue Nation. Because here we don't just watch from the sidelines, we live it. And if you want to continue receiving serious information, in-depth analysis, and news treated with respect for the fans, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave a like. This is Dodgers News Blue Family. Here we breathe blue. Every day. We're still together. The atmosphere in Los Angeles is one of expectation, and that's no secret to anyone who truly lives the Dodgers' daily life. I always say here on the channel that rooting for the Dodgers is living between glory and ambition, because this franchise has never been content just to win. And now, after conquering the top of the MLB again, what you feel in the city isn't rest, it isn't eternal celebration. It's planning. It's strategy. It feels like the next big step is already being built while the echo of the last victory still resonates in Dodger Stadium. And amidst this energy, two stories have gained momentum behind the scenes, stirring up insiders, generating conversations, and most importantly, igniting the fans. And that's what I want to talk about today, because these potential moves could completely change the future of the franchise. The first situation involves a player who caught our attention not only for his talent, but for his competitive attitude when he faced us at the most critical moment possible. And I know every fan remembers that series. It wasn't just his technical performance, it was his ability to deliver even in pain, even with physical limitations, even when the moment demanded a strength that doesn't appear in spreadsheets, reports, or advanced statistics. It was a performance that made the management look and think, this is the type of player who wears the jersey to win. It's not about cold numbers. It's about presence, personality, competitive instinct, and it's exactly this type of player who fits the Dodgers' winning DNA. But of course, nothing is simple when we talk about financial commitments, roster building, and internal balance. If this signing goes through, it won't just be a matter of playing the player in his original position. There will be decisions involving defensive repositioning, adjustments in the infield, and most importantly, a long-term cost-benefit assessment. And this is where the colder analysis comes in, the part that we fans don't always like to hear. Because yes, there are risks. The player, even being an offensive force, has his defensive challenges. He can be repositioned, but that affects other players on the roster, opens up discussions about rotors, and may require bigger changes. And then there's the central point, the value. We're talking about a contract that could be long, hefty, and needs to be considered within the logic of roster sustainability. But at the same time, when you look at what this franchise is building, you can understand the interest. Because it's an aggressive move. It's a move that says, we're not keeping what we have, we're trying to dominate. And it's precisely this thought that connects this first story with the second. Because the other possibility that emerged fits into the philosophy of continuity, projection, and longevity. It's not just about winning now, it's about winning today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. The name that came up in conversation is that of a young outfielder who symbolizes what many teams desire, but few have direct access to. a talent still growing, with above-average physical potential, evolving strike zone reading, and a real projection of future impact. And this is where the conversation gets even more interesting, because this possible move would require something the Dodgers know how to do like few others: sacrifice valuable prospects. I always say here on the channel, the Dodgers are one of the franchises that develops the most internal talent in MLB, but they are also one of the few that knows when to use these talents as bargaining chips. Not out of negligence, but strategically. Because titles are built with difficult decisions. If this negotiation goes through, the Dodgers would be betting on the continuity of the dynasty. While the first move is about immediate impact, this second one is about ensuring the team doesn't depend solely on its current pillars. It's about building the next generation of stars while the current one is still shining. But there's a cost. And it's not small. This affects prospects that fans follow, admire, and envision as the future of the franchise. And that's why I always like to bring this debate here. Are you, the fan, willing to give up potential future stars to secure an established star, or a talent that can develop even further in Los Angeles? That's the big question. And I say this because, when analyzing the Dodgers' current situation, it's clear that the management isn't just reacting to the market. They're dictating its pace. When a championship team returns to the market with hunger, organization, and vision, it shakes up the entire league. It's a very clear message. Hegemony isn't built yet, but it's under construction. And that demands cold, courageous, and calculated decisions. So to summarize, on one hand, we have an offensive player who can further elevate the lineup and transform our offensive rotation into something simply terrifying for any opponent. On the other, a young talent who can sustain the team's strength for years. Two options, two paths. Both carry great potential. Both carry risks. And that's exactly what makes this moment so crucial. And now I want to hear from you. Because this channel is a community. It's a space where we debate, analyze, and experience Dodgers together. Which move would make more sense to you? Betting on immediate impact or thinking about building an even longer dynasty? Would you pay a high price to secure an offensive player now? Or do you believe the priority should be building the next generation of the outfield for the next 5 to 8 years? Leave a comment, seriously. I read and reply. This is the heart of Dodgers Nation. And of course, if you enjoy in-depth analysis, up-to-date information, and debates without exaggeration or sensationalism, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because here on the channel we follow every detail, every rumor, every statement, and every step of this franchise that we hold dear. We're in this together. Because being a Dodger is about that. Never stopping believing. Never stopping dreaming. Never stopping wanting more. Blue love. Blue pride. Go Dodgers. And now I want to open my heart as a fan, because analysis is important. Numbers matter. Projections matter, but in the end, we feel this team before anything else. I see the Dodgers today as a franchise that is experiencing its most complete moment since the years of the great classic MLB dynasties. The foundation is formed, the culture is established, the locker room has a voice, has hierarchy, has a champion's mentality. And that's why I believe that this is the time to make big moves. No timid or conservative movements. If we truly want to prolong the Ohtani Mookie Freeman era, we can't let this opportunity pass. In my opinion, Bo Bichette would be an immediate addition that changes the series, changes the postseason, changes the narrative. I know there are defensive doubts. I know the contract might be hefty. I know adjustments would be needed in the infield. But players who deliver in October are few and far between. Very few indeed. And when you see a player shine against you at a crucial moment and still wish he were on your side, it's because there's something there that can't be explained with WAR, WRC+, or heat graphs. It's instinct. He's the kind of player who wants to be where the pressure is highest. And here in Los Angeles, the pressure is daily. There's no season to develop. Here you either play at a championship level or the stadium notices. I think Bichette would fit in well with that environment. Now, when I think about James Wood, I think about the future. And I truly believe the Dodgers need a young name that can thrive within that winning culture. Wood has physical tools that can't be taught: size, power, evolving discipline, plate presence. But he's still a prospect. He could explode. It could take him longer. He might not even reach his full potential. And that brings us to the most difficult question. Is it worth sacrificing prospects that we ourselves developed to bet on someone who could be the face of the next phase of the franchise? As a fan, I confess I feel conflicted. But if I had to choose, now based on the team's current form, I would choose good Bichette first because this team is at its peak. Because we have the chance to rack up championships today. Because the window isn't infinite, and even though we have a future, we have to aggressively seize the present. Bichette immediately ignites the line. He makes this lineup something pitchers will fear. He changes the opponent's defensive plan before the game even starts. He's here to win now. But, and this is important, I wouldn't give up on the plan for Wood. He needs to stay at the table. He needs to continue being monitored. Because the Dodgers, more than any other team in the league, know how to do two things at the same time: win in the present and prepare for the next chapter. So my opinion as a fan is exactly this. The moment calls for Bichette. The future calls for Wood. And if this management finds the point where both can coexist on the same timeline, we won't just be building a strong team. We'll be making history. And that is why I say, looking at the field with a heart full of blue, we're not just trying to win. We're trying to define an era.